Back again already, huh? Well, hello to you. This is the 7th video in our ongoing series intended to help B2B professionals better document their on-paper go-to-market strategies when selling all of the things to restaurants. This last video is dedicated to owning the market. Up until this point, our steps have been behind-the-scenes strategy, from aligning our internal vocab and finding industry TAM, to ingesting reliable data into our CRM and then segmenting the market. All of this can be done by a single person. Today's topics talk about action and execution, not by one person, but by entire teams that will put your go-to-market plan into motion. We'll cover an execution manifesto, discuss how to operationalize not just your teams, but also supporting systems, and we'll give ourselves some measurement guidelines to ensure we double down on what's working and pivot when it's necessary. Just so you know, for the sake of time, I'll be keeping my recommendations fairly high level in this video, not only because I know that this is a complicated subject with lots of detail, but also because I just happen to know that as soon as I start talking about Salesforce reports, the majority of people's brains just basically shut down. Stay with me though, we're almost at the finish line. Over the years, I've learned that some companies have a once-a-year paint-by-numbers go-to-market exercise that they complete and then promptly ship off to the board or their investors or, at a minimum, their executives. And then it's over. The slides are gone and everyone is safe and free to shift their focus elsewhere until next year. I never really understood this. Having a go-to-market plan that exists but is never implemented or converted into OKRs just seems like such a waste. It's a waste because in theory, you have all the pieces of the puzzle, but you just leave them there. You're a kid who took the time to take all of the pieces out of the mousetrap box and then just lack the motivation or know-how to actually put the game together and play it. Earlier, we talked about how bad data and poor execution were the two most common reasons why go-to-market plans fail, and here we are. It's time to execute. Everything starts with account coverage. This is my execution manifesto. You cannot earn a conversation, book a demo, or sell a deal on accounts that are missing in your CRM. Full stop. Now, historically, accounts are being added to a CRM when you're lucky enough for someone to fill out a contact form, or when a sales rep gets far enough into a conversation to take the time to add it by hand. This is a reactive approach to targeting the industry, and it means that every time a sales rep is forced to prospect, they're going to go back to the same accounts they emailed 3 months ago and try again. I think somewhere in that approach is the definition of insanity. Today's modern sales orgs, especially sales orgs with 5 or 10 quota carriers, typically expect the operations team to identify ICP accounts and put them in their name. I've heard the phrase, if you want me to chase the account, put it in my name my fair share of times. And honestly, the reps that are saying this aren't wrong. That is a completely fair expectation. It's just that most companies add sales ops and analysts well after quota-carrying reps and sales managers and BDRs, so the transition from rep-led to ops-led account coverage can often be, well, awkward. But let me say it again because it's really important to me. Everything starts with account coverage. Territories start with account coverage. Quotas start with account coverage. Tracking activity starts with accounts. And we're finally at a time when companies, big and small, whether they have full-time or fractional sales ops, can realistically commit to a proactive account-based strategy. In a certain sense, you can ABM the long tail, but only if you know they exist and provided they are discoverable by sales and marketing in your system of record. Every recommendation I can make to you in terms of execution and action plans is going to be based on account coverage. After 15 years honing my go-to-market skills, I am convinced it is the most predictable way to approach the market. Why? Why is account coverage the jumping off point? Let's talk about it. What would you do with a CRM that had 12,000 accounts representing the entirety of the multi-unit restaurant industry? Think about it. If you knew you had 12,000 accounts, all of which have 7 key attributes, including things like service type and ownership and tech stack details, what would you do? I have a pretty good idea. Here's what typically happens across key roles within an organization. First, sales reps start to speed up. They begin to accept the CRM as a true system of record because the meat of what they're looking for is already in there. They start looking for uncovered accounts in Salesforce rather than Google. Qualification can start to happen before a first call is ever booked, and reps can prioritize and focus efforts where they have the highest likelihood of earning a conversation. Basically, reps are encouraged to be fast, autonomous contributors rather than market analysts or data jockeys. Second, sales managers spend less time on administrivia, which is pretty empowering. They can build proactive chase lists in minutes during work hours, not at night because it takes so long. Chase lists that match territory definitions covered during sales kickoff. They can load balance territories real time so teams know things are equitable. They can ramp new employees faster because target accounts were identified before the new hire even signed their offer letter. Third, marketers go bananas. Instead of net fishing to thousands of leads with vague value propositions, they start spear fishing with hyper-targeted messaging based on verified insights and attributes. Territory campaigns or campaigns that mention a specific integration relevant to the concept because they're verified to have that POS. Click rates and MQLs should climb dramatically. Fourth, sales ops accelerates rapidly. White space and greenfield reports, which used to take hours or days, take a fraction of what was previously invested. And they're generated in a system where they can be refreshed once a minute as the underlying data inevitably changes. Analysts can start spotting over or underperforming territories and jump in before reps get frustrated and leave. And finally, execs are unleashed. Competitors and market conditions can be thoroughly vetted so decisions are based on data, not gut or emotion. Partners and channels and integrations can all be evaluated strategically to help de-risk future investments and maximize impact. These are entire teams of people who can be operationalized around account coverage because you finally committed to proactively spelling out the industry in your system of record. If you put all prospect accounts into your system, you get all of these things. Now, outside of giving your teams the data they need to be effective in their positions, they're also supporting systems that I often see implemented to fuel the proverbial go-to-market flame. Most often, I see a bit of a trifecta effect between 3 core components. Integrated market intelligence, we've been talking about this for 7 videos now, a reputable contact broker, emails, and native sales enablement, batch sending emails. Let's break these down. Back in step 3, ingesting the data taught us the importance of automating ongoing updates to things like unit counts and tech stack details via a data pipeline. The industry will forever continue to ebb and flow, and asking individual reps to keep up with the millions of changes is a failing strategy. Find yourself a partner that can do the heavy lifting for you. With regard to contacts and contact acquisition strategy, there are 2 types of providers in this space. Those with reputable and recognizable names, like ZoomInfo, Clearbit, and Seamless.ai, and then everybody else. The big names come up often and more or less seem to be what companies prefer in terms of importing validated contact information at scale. Outside of these big names, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. If you're not going with a well-known contact provider who specializes in frequent and transparent email validation and guaranteed high levels of deliverability, just remember that you get what you pay for. Ask tons of questions about their source or sources. How many emails are personal emails? What happens if the majority bounce? Contact information is important, and a lot of companies are doing this well. Email addresses shouldn't simply be a free as-is add-on that feels like an afterthought. If someone is selling them to you that way, trust your instincts. Finally, CRM native sales enablement. Responding to the sheer size of the market with headcount is costly and not recommended. Most companies are choosing partners like Groove, SalesLoft, Outreach, or Mixmax to give their reps the ability to batch outbound emails, automate follow-ups and reminders, and sync all their call and email activity into their CRM without it being painful. Depending on the partner you choose, there's also bonus functionality like tracking email opens and clicks and recording calls for coaching and analysis. This is the dream. Market intelligence, a good contact broker, and one-to-many sales enablement. Now, I get it. Investing in tools is expensive, but ideally, it would be something that's fairly easy to prove, budget and accommodate, and then measure in terms of impact on revenue and speed to market. These are accelerators for individuals and teams and should be implemented or at least strongly considered before you hit your third sales rep. What gets measured gets managed. This is one of my favorite quotes, especially coming from a sales management background. This is also the reason why I put so much emphasis on adopting account coverage as your execution manifesto. When it comes to tracking your progress and gauging whether or not your go-to-market strategy is yielding results, you'll want to start out by giving yourself SMART milestones in your CRM that can be referenced weekly, if not daily. And by SMART, I mean the acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Here's a recommendation for the primary touch points I personally would implement once all accounts are in the system. I choose these because they drive the behaviors I want individuals and teams to collectively focus on. Number 1, how many ICP accounts already have contacts with emails on them? These go to sales. Number 2, how many ICP accounts have no contacts on them? These go to marketing. Number 3, how many accounts have no sales or marketing activity in the past 45 days? If they're assigned, these get brought up in one-on-ones. Number 4, how many ICP accounts have open opportunities since you've started your go-to-market exercise? If the number is anything greater than 0, you officially have uncovered net new revenue potential. Track the heck out of these. And number 5, how many ICP accounts have become paying customers since you started your go-to-market exercise? Celebrate these. Your plan is working. For those of you who are ops-minded like me, these recommendations can be set up as a go-to-market dashboard where each question has its own underlying report and dedicated component. If project management comes naturally to you, try assigning out OKRs based on what you expect your go-to-market plan to produce in terms of conversations or pipeline or recognizable revenue. What's less important here is who is doing the measuring, provided it's getting done. If the goal of our go-to-market plan was action, you need a stakeholder or stakeholders who lose sleep over whether or not the organization is collectively adopting your blueprint. Without ownership, it's just business as usual. Before we wrap up this Own the Market video, I'd kick myself if I closed out this step without at least passively mentioning that there are quite a few topics we didn't talk about in this video, all unique to your business, that will also happen prior to or during the execution stage. Hammering out your value proposition, defining your core messaging, stringing together your strategic narrative, outlining your market positioning. All of these will absolutely influence whether or not people respond to your outbound attempts, so equal consideration should be given to these elements They just aren't things I feel comfortable making sweeping recommendations about without first learning more about your business. Plus, I'm not a marketer, so it's probably best we leave these topics to the professionals. Outside of marketing strategy, you'll also likely have checkpoints for product market fit, pricing strategy, and channel activation. Again, all relevant to the execution of a go-to-market plan, but something we'll have to set aside for a future series if you think it would be helpful. And finally, if you only take one thing away from today's video, let me really drill home how much your execution stage should be based around account coverage. Get accounts into your Salesforce or companies into your HubSpot. Accounts will be the only chance you have to track your progress and iterate future ICPs to scale faster. And they'll also be how you can have a predictable way to reduce your time to market by allocating resources and prioritizing effort where they're needed most. Thank you for listening, and of course, ciao for now.